Good morning. Good morning. Welcome and welcome back to Bookeemonsters. My name is PK. It is Tuesday, April 15th, and we're here to look at new releases that are published this week. A different genre every day of the week. On Mondays, we look at cozy mysteries. Tuesdays, like today, we look at the darker side, crime fiction and thrillers. Wednesdays are romance. Thursday is fantasy and science fiction. Friday is Freeform Friday, and we look at other books that caught my attention that don't necessarily fall into those categories, and usually the rest of the books that we didn't necessarily have time for earlier in the week, mostly cozy mysteries. Quick announcements: I do have sprints tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. They'll go for 2.5 hours. I do sprints 3 times a week, every Tuesday and Thursday evening at 8 p.m. They go for 2.5 hours. And Saturday afternoons starting at 3 for 5 hours. So a total of 10 hours of reading, creativity, self-care time. Hi, Cajun. Morning, all. I took yesterday afternoon, today, and tomorrow off work. Wow. Oh, I bet that's lovely. Nice to be able to join in and not just listen. Indeed. And although my head did spin around yesterday when you said the new Myrtle Clover, I had it pre-ordered but forgot when it was coming out. Oh, I like those kind of surprises. Let us jump in to crime fiction and thrillers. David Baldacci has a new one. I don't believe it's a series one. I think it's a standalone or a new. This is called Strangers in Time, and it is a historical set in 1944, London. 14-year-old Charlie Matters is up to no good, but for a very good reason. Without parents, peerage, or merit, he steals what he needs, living day to day until he's old enough to enlist to fight the Germans. After barely surviving the Blitz, Charlie knows there's no telling when a falling bomb might end his life. 15-year-old Molly Wakefield has just returned to a nearly unrecognizable London. One of millions of children to have been evacuated to the countryside, Molly has been away from her home for nearly 5 years. Her return, however, is not the homecoming she hoped for, as she is confronted by a devastating reality. Neither of her parents are there. Without guardians and stability, Charlie and Molly find an unexpected ally and protector in Ignatius Oliver, the solace at his bookshop, the Bookkeep. Mourning the recent loss of his wife, Ignatius forms a kinship with both children and in each other. They rediscover the spirit of family each has lost, but Charlie's escapades in the city have not gone unnoticed, and someone's been following Molly since she returned to London, and Ignatius is harboring his own secrets, which could have terrible consequences for all of them. As bombs continue to bear down on the city, Charlie, Molly, and Ignatius learn that while the perils of war rage on, their coming together and trusting one another may be the only way for them to survive. And you know David Baldacci is a good author, so this could be a good one. If you are looking for a historical. Good morning, Mary. Happy Tuesday. Hi, Cajun. Just started. I think I was murdered by Colleen Conley. Really good so far. Oh, cool. And Cajun says, good morning to Mary. And Mary, Colleen Cobble. Autocorrect. Indeed. Colleen Cobble. Colleen Cobble. Splintered Justice by Kim Hayes. I kind of like that cover for some reason. But this, I believe, is a police procedural. Sometimes a murder stays hidden in plain sight. When it isn't clear if a crime has been committed, how do you get justice for the victim? Swiss homicide detective Juliana Linder of the Bern police and her investigating partner Renzo Donatelli are facing cases that may not be what they appear. Renzo is on the scene near the Bern Cathedral when a young man repairing a medieval window is injured by falling from a scaffold, a fall deliberately caused by a teenage boy. Finding evidence that the boy's attack on the glassworker is linked to his mother's suicide 15 years earlier, Renzo decides to re-examine the woman's death, hoping his work on the case will help get him promoted to homicide detective. He learns that the apparent suicide still haunts the injured glassworker, although he was a child of 10 when the boy's mother died. Now that Renzo has left his wife, Juliana knows she has to choose what she wants from their future together. Frustrated by her own case, which may or may not be a mercy killing, Juliana can't help getting involved in Renzo's investigation, even against her better judgment. So this sounds like it's part of a series. It just doesn't say which part. Perhaps 4. Perhaps 4th. Oop. Mary says, rainy here this morning here in Virginia. A friend came over yesterday and placed a beehive on my property for a bit. Excited to have them. Oh, how interesting. How are the babies liking that? We are starting in the 30s, but we're supposed to get in the 70s. So, what do you wear? You wear layers and bring an extra shirt. Rogue Frontier by Jason Casper, 9th in the Shadow Strike series. This was released today. Elite CIA operative David Rivers leads his paramilitary team into rural Pakistan with a critical directive: neutralize Kamran Raza, a rogue general selling nuclear secrets to the highest bidder. But when their mission is blown apart, the unit uncovers a devised plot with stakes. Aren't plots usually devised? With stakes far beyond their wildest estimations, a conspiracy to ignite a nuclear crisis between Pakistan and India. Raza's intricate plan, a digital charade of doctored communications, could convince both nations they're on the brink of war. Now, Rivers and his team must outmaneuver Raza on the geopolitical chessboard to prevent jeopardizing regional order. With the specter of nuclear war looming, the stakes couldn't be higher. As David navigates the razor's edge between duty and disaster, he learns that a war between Pakistan and India is only the beginning, because Raza's true goal is something far more catastrophic. Illusionist. Not The Illusionist, it's just Illusionist. Sean McPherson, book number 5 by Laurie Buchanan. Good afternoon, Helen. Hello. Cajun says, I bet you'll get some good honey. Oh, wow, yeah. Cajun, afternoon, Helen. Hi, Emily. Emily says, hi, all. And Cajun says, hi, Emily. Hi, Helen and Emily. Wow, we have a full house this morning. Nice. Indeed. I thank you guys very much. This says, for fans of Louise Penny and Robert Dugoni. When an illusionist joins the Pines and Quill riding retreat, one of the owners vanishes without a trace in the middle of everyone, but the surrounding would-be witnesses don't see or hear a thing. That's when crime boss Giorgio Gambino makes a checkmate move against his nemesis, Sean McPherson. He forces a writer in residence to kill another writer and frame McPherson. In a video call, Gambino warns the writer, if you don't follow orders, your daughter will die. Then he pans the camera to prove access to her college dorm room. McPherson discovers that Carmine Fiore, Gambino's second-in-command, covets his boss role and is staging a coup. As Gambino's soldiers traffic drugs, weapons, and humans, Fiore plants incriminating evidence against the notorious Sureños gang. Can McPherson leverage that knowledge for a temporary truce and the gang's help? The writers in residence, a former NASCAR rider, a professional triathlete, an architect turned house flipper, and a world-renowned magician who may or not be who she appears to be, band together with McPherson to create the illusion of a lifetime. Pretty cover. And the row one. Gone. Need a Gone by Dreda Say Mitchell and Ryan Carter. The deeper into the past she digs, the higher the price she must pay for the truth. It's been 10 years since Allison's perfect world fell apart, 10 years since her son Sam disappeared while on a family holiday. Lost at sea, they said, his body never found. And even though her brother and sister were supposedly looking after the kids, Allison will always blame herself. Caught in a spiraling web of all-consuming grief where the lines between reality and fantasy blur, Allison refuses to let go. So when her ex-husband seeks to have Sam officially pronounced dead, Allison embarks upon a desperate and harrowing quest to discover what really happened that day on the beach. But is the truth worth losing what is left of her sanity? Boo. You Belong to Me by Haley Krischer. Frances Bean, isn't that the name of Kurt Cobain's daughter? Frances Bean has always been content living life on the perimeter until she gets paired up for a class project with rich and popular Julia, daughter of famous wellness guru Dina Patterson. The magic, skincare products, healing sound baths, and extravagant parties of Dina's company, Deep, never really interested Frances before. Is that supposed to be like Goop? Who wears the badge of goth outcast and bookworm proudly, but FaceTime with the girl she has been crushing on for years is starting to give her a new outlook. When Frances gets an exclusive invite to a Deep event, she is blown away. Why won't it let me do more? By the beauty and luxury of Julia's world and the group's focus on empowering girls to be their most true selves surprisingly strikes a chord. Before long, Frances finds herself invested in Deep, a whirlwind romance with Julia, and a future that feels hopeful. But when an infamous Deep party takes a dark turn, Frances wonders if the lure of being a part of Julia's life was actually just a deadly distraction. ... Occasion. This was helpful. Emory has changed the number they text from about appointments. So they sent a text from the old about the change and then the new saying this is the new one, so you know it's them. That is very smart. You can't trust. I kept receiving emails. We've been cyber compromised from our bank saying we're changing our online access to a different online access. You better go in before you can't access anymore. It's like, I don't trust this. I really don't trust this. And then finally, there was a day where I couldn't access it. And they said, we told you about it. It's like, oh, okay. And I was able to do things, but it's like, I don't trust it. That was very smart of them to do that. And Emory is the hospital. Sorry, it's major here. I forgot. Everyone may not know who I meant. We don't have one here. We don't have a lot of things here. The Perfect Divorce by Geneva Rose. This is a sequel to The Perfect Marriage. Till death do us part. Yours, not mine. Ooh. It's been 11 years since high-powered attorney Sarah Morgan defended her husband Adam against the charge of murdering his mistress. Sarah has long since moved on, starting a family with her new husband Bob Miller and changing careers. Her life is back to being exactly how she always wanted, or is it? After discovering Bob engaged in a one-night stand, Sarah wastes no time filing for divorce. However, amid their ugly separation, new DNA evidence is uncovered in the case against Adam, forcing the police to reopen the investigation and put Sarah right back in the spotlight. But you can't have double jeopardy. What? Everyone wants to know what really happened, most of all former Deputy Hudson, who is hell-bent on finding the truth. But when the woman Bob slept with is reported missing, he and Sarah start to fight dirty, and a high-stakes game of cat and mouse ensues, filled with page-turning suspense, blah, 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 blah. Can Bob and Sarah achieve the perfect divorce, or will it be till death to us part? She's just having, honey, just be single. The Murder Show by Matt Goldman. He just said, I got a call. The man said he was from Bank of America. I said, who do I ask for when I call Bank of America? It was logged and they connected, but you never know. Absolutely. Showrunner Ethan Harris had a hit with The Murder Show, a television crime drama that features a private detective who solves cases the police can't. But after, because that's completely different than anything else that they're on TV. But after his pitch for the fourth season is rejected by the network, he returns home to Minnesota looking for inspiration. His timing is fortunate. His former classmate, Ro Bremen, is now a local police officer, and she's uncovered new information about the devastating hit and run that killed their mutual friend Ricky the summer after high school. She asks Ethan to help her investigate and thinks that if he portrays the killing on The Murder Show, the publicity may bring Ricky's killer to justice. A cop is thinking this? No. Ethan is skeptical that Ricky's death was anything but a horrible accident, but with the clock running out on his career, he's willing to try anything. It doesn't take long for them to realize they've dug up more than they bargained for. Someone is dead set on stopping Ethan and Ro from looking too closely into Ricky's death, even if keeping them quiet means killing again. End of that row. The French Honeymoon. And Mary said they have become so good that it's very difficult to detect the bad guys. Indeed, I'm too gullible, so I just say no to everything. That's smart. No, leave me alone. You have to. The French Honeymoon by Anne-Sophie Rouhanon. I'm slaughtering that. I am so sorry. Sometimes Paris is a terrible idea. This is not how she imagined it, any of it. Taylor Quinn arrives at her honeymoon suite in the city of love alone, sans suitcase, but with wads of stolen cash. I think you got the better end of the deal. When she catches a glimpse of newlyweds Cassie and Olivier enjoying their happily ever after, she can't tear her eyes away. And Cassie makes their antics easy to follow as she reveals every detail of their picture-perfect trip on social media. Taylor's obsession builds as she tracks their every move. This was the kind of life she was supposed to be living. This was the marriage she should have had. This was the honeymoon she dreamed of. The illusion is shattered when she overhears a heated argument between Cassie and Olivier, which reveals that they're not the love-struck couple they pretend to be. But Cassie and Olivier have agendas of their own, and Taylor can't see the danger in getting in the middle of this until it's too late. And now no one will get out of Paris unscathed. Interesting. I thought we were going to go into Stalkerland. Well, we were, but, bad. Okay, just as I use my phone for work too, but I don't say anything. Anyone legit will say hello. I read that somewhere, and it seems to work. Yeah, and never say yes. They're recording things. Always, repeat back or use other words. The Death of Us by Abigail Dean. Lots of blurbage here. Together, let's see. It's the night we never talk about. It's the story the world wants to hear, but this isn't the story of that night. This is the story of us. Together, Edward and Isabel move to London. They are young and in love, occupied by friends, work, and fun. But late on a spring evening when they are 30 years old, their home is invaded by a serial killer. In the wake of this violation, each tries to come to terms with a night that changed everything, and their marriage begins to crumble. 25 years later, their tormentor is caught. Way to go, cops, 25 years. And Edward and Isabel reunite for his sentencing. Isabel has waited years for the man who nearly ended her life to be brought to justice. Edward has tried to think about anything else. As they prepare to deliver impact statements in the public eye, it is time to revisit their love story. Will they finally be able to confront the secrets, longings, and lies that tore them apart? Or will the horror of that night be the death of them? Ruth Run by Elizabeth Kaufman. Ooh, cybercrime. 26-year-old Ruth excels at microchip design but decides to get rich the old-fashioned way, robbing banks. She becomes a cybercriminal and devotes 5 years to siphoning more than $250 million out of the banking system. I would have stopped you like at 100. You'd be fine. Using a hacked firewall chip that she created, and only she knows how to access. Then one night, an alarm goes off, and she realizes she's been discovered. See? Stop at 100. 5 hours later, she's on the run, chased across California and the West by a slew of government agents who see her as both a high-level national security threat and potential intelligence asset. They'll catch her dead or alive, whatever it takes to make sure no one else discovers what she knows. Each of these men is obsessed with the woman he's hunting, certain he knows what makes her tick. But Ruth, always a step ahead, armed with her ironic wit. Stand back, I'm armed with my ironic wit. And a reluctant dog eludes their understanding. Can she elude their capture too? I have thoughts, but I'm armed with my ironic wit. I mean, I answered, don't say anything. Yeah, that makes sense. Quorum House by Bailey Siebold. On a blistering summer day in 1968, 9-year-old Tommy vanishes without a trace from Quorum House, an orphanage on the shores of Lake Champlain. Some say a nun drowned him, others say he ran away, or maybe he never existed. 50 years later, his disappearance is still unsolved. But if he didn't exist? Struggling true crime writer Alex Kelly needs a fresh start. When she's asked to ghostwrite a book about the orphanage and the abuses they discovered that occurred there, she packs up her belongings and moves to wintry Burlington, Vermont. As Alex tries to untangle the conflicting stories surrounding Tommy's disappearance, her investigation takes a chilling turn when she discovers a woman's body in the lake. Alex is convinced the death is connected to Quorum's house dark past, even if local police officer Russell Parker thinks she's just desperate for a career-saving story. As the body count rises, Alex must prove that the key to finding the killer lies in Tommy's murder or risk becoming the next victim. This is drawing inspiration from the real-life stories of St. Joseph's Orphanage, it says. And we are almost out of time, but this is our last one. This is Another Fine Mess. It's a sequel to Bless Your Heart by Lindy Ryan. I did try to read Bless Your Heart, but it's a vampire book. I tried to read it because it was a vampire book, but I couldn't do it. So that doesn't mean it's not a good book. I just don't like vampires, but I tried. Another Fine Mess, Book 2 by Lindy Ryan. Making sure dead things stay buried is the family business. For over 100 years, the Evans women have kept the undead in their strange southeast Texas town from rising. But sometimes the dead rise too quick, and that's what left Lenore Evans and her granddaughter Luna burying Luna's mother Grace and Lenore's mother Ducey. Now the only two women left in the Evans family, Luna and Lenore, are left rudderless in the wake of the most god-awful mess to date. But when the full moon finds another victim, it's clear their trouble is far from over. Now Lenore, Luna, and the new sheriff, their biggest ally, must dig deep down into the family lore to uncover what threatens everything they love most. The body count ticks up, the most unexpected dead will rise, forcing Lenore and Luna to face the possibility that the undead aren't the only monsters preying on their small town. If I didn't have the thing about vampires, and if I were more Southern tuned into, this would have been a fabulous book. But I'm from Montana, and I didn't vibe with the southernness of it. Mary says, and she whipped out her ironic wit to confront the guy. We're going to use that today. Cajun, oh, I like Bless Your Heart. I'll put this on my list, on my later list. Awesome. Yes, I would have liked it, but I just couldn't take all the vampireness. Mary, you really zoomed this morning. Thanks so much, and so great to see everyone on this morning. Indeed. Cajun, much later at that price, unless the library gets it. Good idea. Hope everyone has a good day. See you tonight. Yay. Cajun, yeah, I think the southernness is what sucked me in. Yeah, if you're southern, you know. And I'm Montana. All right. Thank you, guys. Tomorrow we'll be looking at romance. As Cajun mentioned, yes, we do have sprints tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. They'll go for 2.5 hours. Emily said, have a good day, all. I'm back at you, baby. All right. Thank you very much. Hope you guys have a good Tuesday. You guys are in my heart, so be safe. And as the banner says here, don't be a bookworm, be a bookie monster. Nom, nom, nom. Have a good day and God bless.